Coming up next on Arizona Horizon, Maricopa County recorder Stephen Richer talks about concerns over new timelines for next year's presidential election. Also tonight, we'll speak with former Navajo Nation President Jonathan Nez, who's now running for Congress. And a new study shows how chronic pain and symptoms of anxiety or depression could be linked. Those stories and more next on Arizona Horizon.
This hour of local news is made possible by contributions from the Friends of PBS, members of your PBS station. Thank you.
Good evening and welcome to Arizona Horizon. I'm Ted Simons. As we record tonight's show, there is still no Speaker of the U.S. House of Representatives. House Republicans today did choose a new nominee, but Tom Emmer of Minnesota dropped out of the race hours after winning the nomination. Emmer's withdrawal came as hard-right members of the GOP made it clear that they would not support him in a full vote for Speaker.
I like Tom Emmer a lot as a person, but I couldn't support him as Speaker of the House. He didn't object to Joe Biden's Electoral College votes. He voted with the Democrats to overturn President Trump's ban on transgenders in the military. He has a voting record I couldn't support, and most Republicans, conservative Republicans, don't support. I think we need a Speaker of the House that reflects the views of Republican voters, and Republican voters largely support President Trump.
Emmer is the third GOP candidate to try to win over a fractured Republican Party after the ouster of former Speaker Kevin McCarthy 3 weeks ago. Other headlines: conservative lawyer Jenna Ellis, who worked for former President Donald Trump's re-election campaign, pleaded guilty today to a felony charge of aiding and abetting false statements in an effort to overturn election results in Georgia. Ellis today told the court that she relied on information given to her by more experienced lawyers.
I failed to do my due diligence. I believe in and I value election integrity. If I knew then what I know now, I would have declined to represent Donald Trump in these post-election challenges. I look back on this whole experience with deep remorse. For those failures of mine, Your Honor, I have taken responsibility already before the Colorado bar who censured me, and I now take responsibility before this court and apologize to the people of Georgia. Thank you.
Ellis is the fourth person involved in the Georgia election case to reach a deal with prosecutors. Former Trump lawyer Michael Cohen took the stand today in the former president's civil fraud trial in New York. Cohen told the court that he and the Trump Organization's former CFO manipulated the company's financial documents so that Trump's assets appeared to be whatever Trump wanted them to be. Cohen also admitted to lying to Congress in 2017 when asked about how many times he spoke to Trump about a project in Moscow. Cohen said he lied because Trump told him to, and that his false statement was written with the help of Ivanka Trump, Jared Kushner, and others. And Israel today said that it's hit more than 400 Hamas targets in the past 24 hours, continuing some of the most intense aerial attacks on Gaza in recent days. The Hamas-run Gaza Health Ministry says that more than 700 people were killed overnight. There are increased calls for some kind of ceasefire, but the U.S. today said that this is not the time for that.
We're going to continue to make sure Israel has the tools and the capabilities that they need to defend themselves. We're going to continue to try to get that humanitarian assistance in. We're going to continue to try to get hostages and people out of Gaza appropriately. And as I think you've heard us say, a ceasefire right now really only benefits Hamas.
The U.S. today confirmed that 33 Americans were among the 1,400 people killed in the October 7th attacks by Hamas. Election officials in Arizona are pushing Governor Katie Hobbs and state lawmakers to hold a special legislative session to correct what they see as a potentially impossible timeline for next year's presidential election. For more on these concerns, we welcome Maricopa County recorder Stephen Richer. Good to see you again. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you very much for having me.
All right, new federal laws, new state laws. What kind of impact will they have on the presidential election?
Well, this goes back to 2 legislative sessions ago in which the legislature changed the recount margin that would automatically trigger a statewide recount. And as our races get closer in Arizona, there's more and more concern that some of these recount margins expanded would be triggered. And where that becomes a problem is between our August primary and getting ready for our November general election, but then also after the November general election, getting those votes to the Electoral College such that Arizona can say who it supports for President of the United States.
Why is this now a problem? It sounds like this was a problem from the get-go, true?
Potentially, but I don't think people appreciated how it would manifest until they started thinking about the 2024 cycle, because it wasn't as much of an issue in the 2022 cycle, and it didn't take effect until for that general election in 2022, and you didn't have any deadline immediately after that like we have the Electoral College.
I understand the deadlines could actually put in jeopardy getting ballots or receiving ballots from overseas and military. Is that true?
So it's going to complicate a lot of things, but the good news is that all 15 counties are united on this. The Secretary of State understands this, the state legislature understands this, the governor understands this. So I'm hopeful that everyone can come together and quickly iron out a solution, because obviously we don't want Arizona in that position. We don't want to say all 49 other states get to participate in naming the next president of the United States, but Arizona, we're going to take a pass on this one.
As far as a special legislative session, then, you would support such a move?
I would, and I think that's what the governor thinks is necessary, as so do Speaker Toma and Senate President Warren Peterson. And so they're all on board now. Obviously, it's easier said than done, and what else will be bundled up with that with respect to election administration will be the real question.
That's my next question. Once you open that box, you open that box. Anything could come out.
Yeah, and heavens knows people have had ideas regarding election administration over the past 3 years. And so will they keep it clean? Will they focus on just this one issue that all 15 counties have identified? Or will it become this election omnibus bill that adds in a whole bunch of other stuff?
The new state and federal laws that are putting this timeline in jeopardy here, what were they designed to do?
The state law was really designed to build confidence in the system, in that it would capture more races, such that if there was a relatively narrow margin, then we would do a recount. And that was meant to build confidence in the wake of the 2020 election, saying, hey, we got it right, and just to prove we got it right, we're even going to expand this recount threshold such that more races will be recounted. Now, what they didn't take into account is just how much of a burden, how many races that will potentially sweep in, and then how many weeks it will take to recount millions of statewide ballots.
So, as an option, would you rather see them just get rid of the threshold and go back to the way it was, or do something as far as moving up the timeline? What do you want to see?
I think we can thoroughly fix it as long as we're potentially going to have a special session. So maybe we reassess that margin, and if it's appropriate, and then we change some of the dates. We might even look at our primary date or when our canvas date is, and things like that.
Changing, I should say, certification. You
Yes.
tried to say deadlines. Option?
Potentially.
Yeah. Good option?
Well, you want to be careful, and that's the most important thing, so that when you present that to the Board of Supervisors, you're certain that that number is in fact the number. And when we're talking about, again, millions of ballots, as we know we will have for the 2024 election cycle, you don't want to rush that process. But I think as long as this is accompanied with an investment of resources such that people can do more tabulation, have more hands on the process, and be able to accommodate those moved up deadlines, then maybe it can be done.
Maybe it can be done, and you talk about you don't want to rush the process, but if it doesn't happen in a special legislative session before they embark in January, then you got to have a concurrent special session. And then, I mean, goodness gracious, then you're coming up on primary season.
No, I want to rush the legislative process. What I don't want to rush is the electoral or the election process, the tabulation process, and all the precursor steps to that.
Okay, but it has to concern you a little bit about, again, opening the box and letting, because once you start that session, anyone and everyone with all their ideas are going to come trumping down there.
No, and we've witnessed that. We've witnessed over 150 bills every single legislative session for the last 3 legislative sessions. Some of these are good, bad, and some are ugly. And so we go through those. I think there's a lot of steady minds out there. Senator Bennett is part of this elections task force. He's a Republican. Certainly Governor Hobbs is somebody who has a background in election administration as former Secretary of State. So there's some people who are very thoughtful about this.
Have you seen, I think the governor's election task force is out with proposals and ideas. It's a lot to go through here. I just saw it late this afternoon. Have you seen it? What do you see?
So this was a bipartisan team that she assembled to build election reform ideas that had broad consensus, and they released those today. The main issue that they tackled is this very issue that we've been discussing with respect to deadlines, but they tackle other stuff such as voter registration, when you can drop off an early ballot, whether or not the weekend before will be called emergency voting or whether it'll just be called early voting. I think that these are good ideas. I'm one who likes to generate ideas, especially when they've undergone a thorough vetting process, and so we'll see. Obviously, legislating is left to the legislators, and it's up to them whether or not they want to take any of these ideas.
Right, I was going to say, are these good ideas that could get past a legislature?
Yeah.
This particular legislature.
We'll see.
We'll see, yeah. Your biggest concern right now involving the election, is it this timeline issue, or are there other things out there that are bugging you?
That's the one sort of strategic or structural issue that we're going to have. But right now, we're in the midst of jurisdictional elections. It's going well. We could always use more space and more people. So especially when we get early ballots that are dropped off on election day, that's all of a sudden a lot of work, and I'd love to be able to just throw more bodies at it. So what we've been doing is actually renovating our facilities such that we can have more bipartisan teams of ballot processors, more bipartisan teams running the tabulation equipment, just so when we get those hundreds and hundreds of thousands of ballots on the election day, we can process those more speedily.
All right, Stephen Richer, Maricopa County Recorder, good to have you here. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you very much, and happy voting season. Get that ballot back to us by November 7th.
Sounds good. Up next on Arizona Horizon, former Navajo Nation President Jonathan Nez on his decision to run for Congress.
I'm Chef Mark Charbel. Check Please Arizona is back. Join us each week as we go inside your favorite restaurants in and around Phoenix. We'll dish on what's hot and what's not, from white tablecloths and crystal to your local neighborhood joint. Your table is ready, so pull up a chair for Check Please Arizona. Thursday night at 7, right here on Arizona PBS.
From Madrid, New York City Ballet dances 3 signature works. George Balanchine's Serenade, set to the music of Tchaikovsky, followed by Balanchine's tour de force, Square Dance, and concluding with The Times Are Racing, choreographed by Justin Peck. Expect to be delighted when New York City Ballet in Madrid comes to great performances.
Friday night at 8 on Arizona PBS.
Former Navajo Nation President Jonathan Nez recently announced that he's running for Congress in Arizona's 2nd Congressional District. Nez is running as a Democrat and is seeking to unseat incumbent Republican Eli Crane. Jonathan Nez joins us now by way of Zoom. Good to see you, sir. Thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate your time. Why are you doing this?
Well, Ted, we turn on the television, we hear the radio, we see it all over social media, on the web, the dysfunction that's happening in Washington, D.C. And look, even tonight, they couldn't elect another speaker. After dialogue with a lot of this constituents in District 2, they encouraged me, they spoke to my family, my wife, Ophelia, to consider running for Congress. And, after much prayer and much deliberation with friends and family, we said that we will take on this bid for really a new stage in our life. As you know, we were on the Navajo Nation, did some work on the Navajo County Board of Supervisor for some time. And I think it's about time that we have someone that's actually from the district governing District 2. I was born, raised, and still here in the district. And I think it's really important that there is someone that represents the district, that knows what's going on in rural Arizona, in our rural district as well.
Back to the speaker issue, Republicans, they actually blame Democrats because every Democrat did vote to oust McCarthy, and all Democrats will vote against whatever Republican candidate is there. Are Democrats not at all responsible for gridlock in Washington?
Well, elections have consequences. Right now, the Republican Party is in control, and it just shows that there's so much division within the Republican Party just to elect a speaker. And where there are still some issues, lots of struggles that Arizonans are going through. What I want to do to help is to lower inflation, lower the cost of childcare, continue to fight for quality health care. Affordable housing is a need in rural Arizona. These are issues that the constituents want to be addressed, not the division that's happening in Washington, D.C. And I think really with the network that we have, that we've gone throughout my career, 18 plus years of government service, we can bring that network and help, all of Arizona, and of course the folks who live in Congressional District 2.
The National Monument near the Grand Canyon, something I'm sure that you support, correct?
We support tribes and people who want to protect their land, sacred sites. Look at what's happening in Israel right now. Israel has the right to defend themselves. Ukraine also has the right to defend themselves. And here in Arizona, what we want is to protect the lands for the future of everyone, all Americans.
But with that in mind, your possible opponent here, Eli Crane, he's certainly the incumbent, and he certainly looks like he's going to be running for re-election. He says uranium mining is needed for U.S. defense, and banning uranium mining up anywhere near the Grand Canyon might sound like good things, but he says that makes us more dependent on other countries for our defense. What do you make of that?
Well, we have to remind ourselves that these uranium mines that are open throughout the Southwest, in the state of Arizona, on the Navajo Nation, there are over 500 open uranium mines. People came in, the federal government gave the okay to extract uranium, and the companies that were here didn't do a good job in cleaning up that mess. And today we have high rates of cancers from these open uranium mines. And let's not forget the testing that went on, the downwinders. And so, uranium right now on tribal lands has been banned, especially in the Navajo Nation. And so we are advocating for the health and well-being of all citizens, for the Radiation Exposure Compensation Act. Just look at how much funding is going into the compensation of the people that have been deeply affected by the testing of these nuclear bombs.
Last question here. We got about a minute left. This is a heavily Republican district. This is bright and strong red. You're running as a Democrat. Critics say you don't have a shot here. What do you say?
Well, don't count me out. I grew up with conservative values. My parents were both Republican. I was Navajo County Board of Supervisor for 6 years. I know how to work with the folks down in the South County, and heavily Republican there. With those types of values, I think we'd be able to bring Republicans and independents, even nonpartisan, over to our team and really address and focus on the needs of Arizonans in District 2, and not play political games, not to divide our people, but to address like our veterans, the needs for our veterans, those that are active duty. We got to start planning on the return back to America, to civilian life. And let's not forget about the families of those veterans and active duty warriors. We need to make sure that they have the resources to better the quality of life, and not just for our veterans, but for all of Arizona.
Jonathan Nez, candidate for Congress. Sir, thank you for your time. We appreciate it.
Thank you, sir.
A new study finds that nearly 1 in 20 adults in the U.S. experience the co-occurrence of chronic pain and anxiety or depression, resulting in functional limitations in daily life. How much of a connection is there between pain and anxiety, and what does research suggest in the way of improved treatments? Joining us now is Dr. Jennifer De La Rosa. She's from the University of Arizona Health Sciences Comprehensive Pain and Addiction Center. Welcome to Arizona Horizon. Good to have you here.
Oh, it's wonderful to be here. Thank you.
Let's, first of all, define chronic pain. What are we talking about here?
Sure. That's a definition that's recently evolving. So the International Association for the Study of Pain has defined chronic pain as pain lasting more than 3 months. Very simple. And this could be tied to a disease process or not, but it's pain lasting more than 3 months.
Pain lasting more than 3 months, so it's more of a time frame as opposed to the severity of the pain?
Correct. The severity could vary.
Okay, so now the research is saying that, and it kind of makes sense, that if you got chronic pain, anxiety and depression are right around the corner, does it not?
It does. Scientists are well aware that the connection between chronic pain and anxiety is biological. They run on the same highway. It's the nervous system. And clinicians see this in their patients every day. So people treating chronic pain find that their patients are more likely to have anxiety and depression if they have chronic pain, and those treating people with anxiety and depression are more likely to experience chronic pain. Our goal with this study, the gap that we were filling, was to examine the nature and scale of this problem in the wild, in the general US adult population, because not everybody is a patient. And especially those who are disadvantaged, who may have less access to resources, those are the very individuals that we care most about, and yet they're not being captured in our current characterization of this problem.
What did the research find as far as these folks in the wild?
Well, we thought we might find the problem was bigger, and that is exactly what happened. We found that 12 million individuals, 12 million US adults, were affected by anxiety and depression, not just as a diagnosis, but actually uncontrolled. So this is moderate to severe symptoms of anxiety and depression that are not well managed, along with chronic pain. So that's 5% of the US population, 1 in 20, 12 million people. It's a huge problem.
If you have medication that deals with chronic pain, and you have medication that deals with anxiety and depression, and there is a biological highway, as you say, a link, but is there a way to bridge that gap, medically speaking?
Well, we think so. There's some off-label use that shows promise in that with existing medications. And of course, we are interested in developing novel therapeutics. By we, I mean those of us involved in drug development, which I am not. My interest is epidemiological and being sure to capture this population. So in addition to the size of the problem, we found that among those with anxiety and depression that was unresolved, severe to moderate to severe anxiety and depression that was unresolved, these individuals, over half of them were experiencing chronic pain across the country. And we had I certainly did not expect this result. And it really has a takeaway at a policy level, in my opinion, that if we are serious about resolving the mental health crisis of anxiety and depression that is sort of out of control and untreated, we also need to center the experiences and the difficulty, the loss of function, the kind of loss of hope of people who are living with chronic pain. And currently, I don't see a focus on chronic pain in the mental health conversation, but I think that needs to change.
Interesting. Emphasizing maybe function as far as treatment is concerned, possibility?
Absolutely. In many cases, we cannot remit all the symptoms. If we are clinicians, we tell patients, listen, we can't remit all of it. We can get rid of maybe some of it, and then we're going to give you skills to be resilient, to cope, to continue living your life. And for us, it's not safe. We could remit all of your pain, and then you'd have substantial risks for addiction, for all kinds of downstream impacts that are not safe. And so we're doing a balancing act with remitting pain and resolving pain. And so what we're left with is a focus on function. Can you have a life that's meaningful to you? What are the things that matter to you? And how can we make sure that you preserve those things, even if we cannot remit all of your pain?
I was going to say that seems so individualistic. I mean, it just seems like some people can work through this, that, and the other people, the slightest bit of pain and they're down and out. I mean, how do you bridge that?
It's difficult. And the reason that this often happens is people have a buildup of kind of other kinds of pain, social pain. They may have social disadvantages, or they may have had experiences of trauma, exclusion, discrimination. And we find that these things actually impact not just the experience of pain, but functional resilience to it as well.
There, as you mentioned, referred to here earlier, and as I was looking through this, there's not a lot of research, like hard research on this. Why do you think that is?
For one thing, survey research is a little bit like astronomy. You have to wait for things to line up properly. And for us, we saw the opportunity there was a data set, the National Health Interview Survey, which is a fantastic survey, rigorous, well-designed. It is the survey that we use to establish our progress as a nation toward health objectives. And we found that one year they had used chronic pain as a module, and at the same time in the same data set, it's a wonderful discovery, they had also included clinical screeners for anxiety and depression. So members of the Chronic Pain and Addiction Center, many of whom are very interested in this topic across disciplines, took the opportunity and ran with it.
Wow. Well, great research on this, and it sounds like something we're going to learn a lot more about here as the research and the study goes on. Jennifer De La Rosa, UA Health Sciences, thanks for coming up from Tucson and joining us and telling us about chronic pain and anxiety and depression, and continued good work. Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you. It's my pleasure.
And that is it for now. I'm Ted Simons. Thank you so much for joining us. You have a great evening.
Coming up tonight at 7. At 8. At 9.